Hello, I'm Scott Wrighton, and I serve as Decatur City Manager. And every week, even though there might not be a lot of people watching, we have a video production that tells our citizens a little bit about what's going on in their city government. I'd like to update you on a couple of major infrastructure projects. The first is that those of you who drive up and down Fairview on the west side of the city on a regular basis know that near Fairview Plaza, we've been building a new fire station number 3. Fire station number 3 will replace the old fire station number 3 that's at the corner of El Dorado and Fairview, a little bit further south of 36. That older station is the oldest fire station in the city's inventory, and it was built in the 1920s. And so it's well past the need to be replaced. In fact, it really doesn't fit our apparatus anymore. So once we move out of that building, the city will be offering that property for sale. This coming Monday, the fire department will be moving into the new facility near Fairview Plaza. And once they've sort of had a little bit of a shakedown with that and figured out where everything goes, in a couple of weeks, we'll have an open house. The last fire station that the city of Decatur opened, station number 5, just north of Target off of Mound Road, we dealt with it in the same way. Once the fire team had gotten everything where it needs to be, we had an open house and had a pretty good attendance. We think it's important that the citizens of Decatur see how we're using these funds to make sure that we're updating the equipment and the facilities of the firehouse in all of its different locations, and this is just the latest one. That's fire station number 3 near Fairview Plaza. Another project that's been in the news frequently is essentially a new interchange that the city, along with the state of Illinois, will be building at the corner of Brush College Road and Ferries Parkway over on the east and industrial side of the city. This project has had a couple of false starts. In fact, it's really been in the planning stage for over 10 years, and it will involve grades separating what is currently an at-grade intersection. Brush College, the north-south leg at that intersection, will be going over Ferries Parkway. This will enable motorists to get through there without some of the significant delays that happen, not so much because of trucking, but because of that intersection being served by 2 Class 1 railroads that can result in significant delays. This project, however, is estimated at more than $55 million. We expect it to go to a bidding in January. It'll be managed by the state of Illinois. What's more important to our citizens is 2 things. The first is that once construction starts in 2022, it's likely going to be more than a 2-year project. 2 years of having to have detours and reroutes of traffic and potentially delays. And now, when it's done, it'll be a great improvement and will mean that truck traffic flows much more smoothly on that eastern corridor of the city. But I have to say that for 2 years, it's going to be a problem in terms of short-term construction-related congestion. The other thing that it's important for citizens to know is that even though this is an expensive project, the state and federal government and railroads and others outside of Decatur are going to be paying most of the tab for this project. The city's worked very hard with its consultants and its partners to make sure that our cost is only around 7 to 7.5% of that total. That's a real victory given the size of that project. Brush College and Ferries Parkway coming in 2022. At the last City Council meeting, the City Council talked a lot about how to use its surplus property that maybe it uses because it's in our inventory of land, because we have wells there that we pump water into Friends Creek, becomes a part of our water supply, or it's surplus land to the Oakley Sediment Basin up northeast of the city. What we usually do is we have farm leases in these places. The City Council had a discussion about what are some of the alternative uses of this property. It's a challenge, and one of the items has been offered has been solar energy, whether or not we can just put solar arrays out there. It's particularly important because energy costs are going to be increasing in 2022. The federal government really hasn't planned for the fact that fossil fuels are being disinvested, and the government wants to use alternative fuels, but one is going down before the other is in place, and that's creating supply and demand problems that is increasing the price. And so sadly, energy prices are going to be increasing in 2022. And the energy bill recently approved by the state of Illinois also places restrictions on other sorts of traditional energy generation. So into the future, there's going to be some uncertainty about that. But solar arrays on city property really only work where they're near a substation, and some of those properties where we are currently getting revenue from them from farm leases aren't really close to those substations. But maybe that's more detail than I needed to share, but know that the mayor and city council are committed to using these properties in as efficient a way as possible, whether that's whether it's solar energy or whether it's farm leases or some other agricultural use or some other non-agricultural use. We own a significant amount of property, and the city council and the staff are always thinking about ways to find more efficient uses of those properties. One of the other things that has been talked about at this video, but I really want to mention it again, has to do with property taxes, because in the fall of the year is when all of the local governments that use property taxes file their property tax levies with Macon County. Why that's important, particularly this year, I mean, it's important any year, but particularly this year, is that the equalized assessed value, the aggregated value for tax purposes that the county and each of the townships assess, is going up. We tend to think that this is a short-term increase because there's been a supply and demand problem in real estate as well. There haven't been as many homes available in most markets in the United States, including in Decatur, and that causes the prices to go up. Well, that's good for the seller, of course, but when prices go up, then the county and the townships will reflect those higher values in the equalized assessed value that they determine each property has. And that can have the unintended impact of increasing property taxes if the governing bodies of each of the 11 or 12 different local governments that assess property taxes in Macon County and Decatur don't hold the line and make sure that they adjust for that increase in equalized assessed value. The city council, the mayor and city council here in Decatur, have instructed staff to put together a tax levy that takes account of that and doesn't just allow the levy to float up with an increase in equalized assessed value. And they're encouraging the other units of government that issue that assess property taxes to do the same thing. So please know that just because your equalized assessed value may have gone up and you got a notice in the mail about that, that doesn't automatically mean the taxes will go up, and that at least with regard to the city, who only has 15% of the levy, I mean, half the levy is the school district levy, we only have about 15% of it, but at least for that portion, the mayor and city council are striving to be very good stewards of that resource. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about COVID. The positivity rate here in this region of the state is 2.2%, which tracks pretty close to the state's overall 2% positivity rate. The positivity rate for COVID is a little bit higher here in Macon County. It's at 3.4%. And the vaccination rate, meaning people who've had both doses, if they're taking one of the ones that require 2 doses, is at around 45%. Still below the state's average, which is around 57%. But it certainly is good news that the positivity rate has come down. The number of reported cases has also decreased, and the number of admissions to our local hospitals are also down. But as I've said before, your best defense is still to get vaccinated, and we encourage you to do that and to follow some of the other practices to make that we've all come to understand are just good common sense practices to make sure that you don't contract the virus. So stay safe, and I look forward to talking with you again next week. Thanks.